Hello everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful Pesach. It's the weekly, well, almost weekly, because last week I skipped because of Chol Hamoed, and the weekly share of the Zera Shimshon. Everybody should have a schus from this learning, and this is a very interesting piece. Today is Chav Zayin Nisan, Tafshin Pei Beis, and it's the 12th day of the Eimer. And I have my great-grandson's birthday today, Yaakov Daniel. So, this pasuk says, "Ohavti ki yishma Hashem es koili tachanunai." It's a pasuk in Tehillim Kuf Tes Zayin, which happens to be today's Tehillim also. Oh, yesterday's, I'm sorry. It says, difficult, why? It says, Lama loy lama ta'afti. Why didn't it say ta'afti? I desire. The ma inyan ahava laka. What is the inyan of ahava in this pasuk? Pasuk says again, ahavti, I love, ki ishma Hashem. What does that mean? So this is sensed by the Gemara Psachim by Rava. Rava says there, I'm going to read it to you. It says, Rava says, what does it say in the pasuk in Tehillim? Ahavti kishma Hashem Omra Knesset Yisrael. Knesset Yisrael says that's the body of the Klal Yisrael and the Shemaim. It says Ribono shel Olam Emas ani ahuva lefanecha. So when am I beloved in front of God? In Zman shetishma koil tachanunai. When God listens to, when I pray out to Hashem, He listens to my supplications. So I'm beloved. So now, this name of Shimshon, there's a little twist to this, and he adds something that's very practical and frequent. And the Kisvi Arizal, and the Arizal says in Shar Kavanis, every day before davening, some Sidurim have it, to mekabel on yourself the pasuk in this week's Parshat in Kedoshim, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamaycha. She'im loikein ain't tefillah semikobelas, because he doesn't say that, his tefillah is not accepted. L'chein omar akaso ahavti. That's why the pasuk is telling us ahavti bilibi kol b'nei adam kishani roitza sheyishmas koil tachanunai. Says I love all people so that my prayers can be heard. Al derech zeh yuvan ma she'omer Chazal in Perik Gimel the Sanhedrin. He says Soinei Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis. If somebody wants to look it up, Soinei Kol Shalei Dibra Imay Shleisha Yamim Be'eva. So what's person considered somebody that doesn't like you is if he doesn't speak to you because of some reason that for 3 days. Okay, now he's going to examine this. Omar lei nechshadu yisrael kach. So the Gemara says Jewish people are not suspected that they hate people like that. Why the kasha maishnod chet zeh mikol shar chatoyim? So what's this sin of not speaking to somebody for 3 days different from all other sins? Ma taima lei nechshadu. Why are they not suspected? Suspicious, right? Elo. Since a person has to accept himself according to the Arizal every day before davening, he loves everybody, so they probably don't have anybody that hates them. Or they don't hate anybody else, okay? Why dafka 3 days? And that says Kiloi Nechshadu Yisrael Akach for 3 days. Lefi Darcheno is according to what we say, according to the Zera Shimshon's Pshat. Shebechol Yom Kaidem Tfilasei Tzorich Lekabel Alav. The V'Havta V'Echa Kamaycha. He's got to say this every day. So where are the 3 days? Yesh Lamed Lefamim Yesh Misha Eloi Hispalol Shleisha Yom. So it could happen that the person didn't daven for 3 days. Why? For example, the Gemara in Eruvin says, somebody comes from an arduous journey, then Ali Spal Shleisha Yomim, you shouldn't daven for 3 days. Lefi Shein Daitay Meyushavas Alav. Okay, because his mind is not settled. He's still disturbed by his arduous journey. And the further you could say at the Gemara Bava Kama Daf Tzadi Beis Amud Aleph, Hamispalo B'ad Chaveroi. Everybody knows this. Anybody who prays for his friend, who he needs that thing. There's a whole organization that, as I belong to this for a while, that you pray for somebody else, you say Tehillim for somebody else's problem, and he says it for you, and you both get answered. Okay? So shiny, because he says Yishma, and that if he davens for somebody else and he needs that exact thing, so Afli, Yishma Hashem is koili, then Hashem listens to his voice. Well, I'm aggravated about his problems, so even though I didn't pray for myself, you pray, but you listen to my supplications. That I prayed for my friend. Another terrorist, like if I love all the Jewish people like me, I'm praying all of my prayers in the plural. That includes everybody. And therefore, Hashem will listen to my voice because the merits of the majority is greater. And then we have a little story here, the Segula of Zera Shimshon. Here's another example of someone who made it his business to involve himself with the tzibur and subsequent impact that he made. The following letter was sent to the founders of the institution for the study of the Zera Shimshon, to Rabbi Benjamin Pashkes and Rabbi Yisrael Silverberg. Having been introduced to the Torah classic Zera Shimshon, I decided to set up a number of shiurim in a few Bati Midrashim in the vicinity of my Bnei Brak neighborhood. Wanting to do even more, I also sold many copies of the Sefer at highly subsidized prices to people who wanted to learn it. Not long after, I ran into one of the men who participated in the shiurim. After thanking me emotionally for setting up the shiur, the man made a statement that excited me. Reb David, he said to me, I want you to know that I have experienced a major Yeshua because of you. He says, naturally I was intrigued, so I said, tell me more details. More than 20 years ago, he said, one of my children needed to undergo a complicated surgery. Baruch Hashem, the operation was successful, but from then on, he has needed to visit the doctor on a regular basis to make sure that nothing has changed for the worse. So it went on for 20 years, checkups every so often, and with the doctor telling us everything was fine. But you know how it is. Things are fine until they aren't fine. A few months ago, my son went to the doctor for his regular checkup, and when the doctor was finished examining him, he told our son in no uncertain terms that according to his diagnosis, the problem has returned, and that they would need to do a complicated surgery all over again. I can't tell you how disappointing this was for us. Like I said, the operation was extremely complicated, and the fact that it had been so successful the first time around didn't guarantee anything about the future. In this case, even the slightest complication would have numerous side effects and would endanger my child in many ways. Needless to say, we were very nervous. It was around that time that I learned about the Sefer Zera Shimshon for the first time due to the shiur that you established in my neighborhood. The person who told me about the shiur made sure to point out the many reasons why joining would be a good idea for me, not least the fact that learning the Sefer was known to be a major segula in every area. I decided to join as a schus for my son to get through the operation unscathed, and with the hope that he would live long, happy, healthy life. Shortly after this, we accompanied our son to the doctor for pre-surgery briefing, at which time the doctor suggested that we do another test. When he checked the test results, the doctor did the very last thing I would ever have imagined. He apologized. Why are you apologizing? I asked him. Because you have been erroneously told that your son needs another operation. That's not true. There must have been some mistake somewhere along the way before you ended up in my office. Because according to what I'm seeing, there's no reason for anyone to have that type of operation. My friends, your son is completely healthy. Go home and rejoice. And may everybody have segula for the week. That's Hashem. And remember to say V'ahavta l'recha before the davening. Zay gebench, have a good Shabbos, kol tov.